season, Scared Silly. This is it, folks, the final film. The last of Sony's seemingly never-ending supply of insufferable adventures of their favorite bear and deer duo. Unless they're secretly developing another movie that we don't know about. We're already at number 4, so at this point, why stop there? If you have an open season 5 in the works, Sony, then have the guts to say it to my face right now! Come on, Sony! Hit me! Hit me! Hit me! Okay, I'm calm now. So, despite this being another open season, if there is one way to find a bit of hope in this, the movie is directed by David Feiss, a prominent story artist and the creator of one of my childhood favorite Cartoon Network shows, Cow and Chicken. Might not be much, but hey, always helps to find even the smallest positives when facing something you're not particularly looking forward to. So now that Boog and Elliot are gonna get scared, will the movie sound as bad as the idea of a 4th open season film? Or will the actual scary part of this is that it might turn out to be not that bad? Well, before we do find out about what I think regarding Boog and Elliot's grand finale, I'd like to quickly go and discuss about this review's sponsor. This little guy. And believe it or not, it's a wallet. Yes, this is brought to you by The Ridge, the best and possibly only wallet you'll ever need. Yes, it's literally the size of a credit card and it's even 3 times smaller than my old wallet, but this thing can carry a lot, like the extra cash I got for sponsoring this, and even up to 12 cards at once. And this is made with some of the most durable material out there too for long-lasting security and durability with your choice of aluminum, titanium, and the one I have, carbon fiber, on top of choosing a variety of styles and colors. And the only thing harder than this wallet is finding any negative reviews about it. Seriously, I searched everywhere and it's just praises as far as the eye can see. And if you don't believe me, you could just try it out for 45 days and then send it back to them so that they could give you a full refund. So there's really nothing to lose here. And to make sure your old wallet doesn't hurt from this new wallet, you could go to ridge.com/animat and use the promo code animat to not only get a 10% discount, but also free shipping from anywhere in the world. But, just like these wallets, we'll have to be super strong in order to go and confront one more open season movie. So, can anything prepare us for what is in store with Scared Silly? Well, let's find out. The story. The first important thing to note is that this movie took everything that the second and third film built up and completely threw it all out the window, meaning that this is more like a second take on the second film. This also means that Elliot doesn't have kids, Boog doesn't have a Russian girlfriend, and Mr. Weenie doesn't have his domestic animal buddies. I haven't even gotten into the movie itself yet, and already this is off to a great start. But not only that, it actually tries to connect itself closer to the original film, bringing back elements of the first and have some long-forgotten characters return like Gordy and, quite surprisingly, Shaw. So, to its credit, it does put in more of a legitimate effort to be a sequel to the original open season. However, despite some noticeable improvements from the previous follow-ups, at the end of the day, this is still an open season sequel. It still has to only work with the materials the original already established, and there's very little of that to begin with. At first, the more prominent nods to Open Season 1 and the lack of any existence of the sequels make it somewhat promising at first, but as the movie continues, it eventually goes back to the usual issues that are commonplace in these sequels, including a little amount of an already unengaging story that's mainly driven by Elliot's selfishness and stupidity. In this case, this is all about the boys trying to confront the wailing Wampus werewolf to both protect their friends and conquer Boog's fears, along with saving the forest from Shaw, who returned to the picture to shoot down the werewolf and anything in his way. The story itself is often predictable and even repeats the same buddy comedy cliches the franchise did before, like the ups and downs of the lead's friendship. But it mainly sets itself aside for the humor, which honestly is not just weak, but also childish and pretty dumb. I mean, there is a scene where the whole point is to just build up a joke where Elliot literally eats a piece of poo.
Enough times to know there's only one way left to truly know the werewolf's whereabouts. No. No!
What do you... No!
Ooh.
But then again, I would lie if I say that I did not laugh at all throughout the picture. Nothing laugh out loud worthy, but there are a few instances that did get me a little, like the franchise's signature of rabbits as props. Also, I'll admit that it actually does pick up a bit by the third act, at least by direct-to-video standards. Maybe it's just because most of the film can be grueling to sit through, but then it does get fun and maybe even a little engaging when the film presents a chase scene in a lava mine, an out-of-nowhere, over-the-top musical number with Mr. Weenie, and the final confrontation of Boog and Shaw. At the end of the day, this is still an open season follow-up, so this is already hopeless from the get-go. But compared to the second and third film, at least it does present some effort put into it. Not a whole lot, but just a bit to show that it cares about continuing the open season story. The animation. I don't care if this is just another direct-to-video animated sequel. There was a 5-year gap between this one and the previous film, and there better be an improvement on the animation quality. Luckily, and possibly even miraculously, there is an upgrade, and quite a big one too. Technically, the reason for that is because, unlike the other sequels, which were done at Real Effects, this one was made at Rainmaker Entertainment. This is not to say the former is a bad studio at all. I mean, they were the company behind The Book of Life. But with Scared Silly, there is a sense that Rainmaker might have taken this project a little more seriously, even to the point where the quality can almost be comparable to the first film. Then again, it is important to note that we're still talking about open season, so the standards have never been high to begin with. I get that the film is only limited to what the first established, but that also means carrying some of the flaws from before, including some of the weirdly awkward character designs, especially on the humans where they look lankier than bring any of the charm the style could have. But possibly the biggest problem with the visuals in this case is how it offers little that would be considered new. Granted, some of the pros are included too, like the use of squash and stretch in the character animation to make fun and expressive movements, and the backgrounds do depict some nice cartoon-like forest scenery, on top of the textures looking more clean and refined than the other sequels to give the film a nice polished look. But they're already done before, and knowing that these components are all recycled doesn't have as much power as when they were first introduced. For the most part, while not terrible, it mainly gives that feeling of been there, done that. However, that doesn't mean that there's literally nothing new in the animation. At certain times, since this was directed by David Feiss, there are hints of his own style that are featured throughout the film, especially with Ed and Edna, who look like they came straight out of something like Cow and Chicken or I Am Weasel.
So come on down!
Or up, depending on where you start from, eh?
To Ed and Edna's Poutine Palace, curds fit for a king or a queen!
Also, with the crazy events during the third act, a large part of what made them work is how the animators made the most with those scenes to deliver a climactic ending for the picture with a hint of amusing comedy. Rather it be the high speeds of the mine train, the overly dramatic stage production of Mr. Weenie's number, or Boog and Shaw's big fight. There really isn't much that's fresh about the animation, since it mainly just recreates the original's look, but I can appreciate a bit that it does try to do its job decently. The characters. Similarly to the animation, there's little to nothing new that is presented in Scared Silly when it comes to the characters. For the most part, it's all the same gang doing the same thing as they did before. Unfortunately, not only is it hard to find anything new with the cast, it is also hard to find anything positive to say about them. Yes, they mainly are the recognizable characters like when audiences met them in the first film, voiced by actors who sound like they were having fun making this, but all they could deliver is their one-note personality, or worse, just one continuous joke. Starting with the leads, Boog has to go through the arc of going from being scared of werewolves to bravely saving his friends, and Elliot is once again proving how he is possibly the worst thing about these open season movies, always taking center stage to pull off his style of cringy comedy where the punchline is always how much he is both an absolute idiot and a selfish, hateable jerk, helping Boog to conquer his fear all because he wants to do this camping trip with him. technically, there is another character who prominently tags along with them and takes a good amount of screen time, and that is Mr. Weenie. But I will say that if there is one thing I can't agree with Elliot on anything that ever came out of his mouth,
I've got to be honest, the Mr. Weenie part feels a little forced.
his role in the film is debatably pointless except for convenience sake, and even at that, he could have been swapped for any of the other animals in the forest. His shtick can be cute at first, but he grows to become so repetitive throughout the film with his one running gag of, "Oh, I'm so hungry!" As for the rest of the animals, they serve as the friends who occasionally aid the protagonist along their journey with their own one-dimensional trait. The only one who does stand out from them is Giselle, acting like one of the few reasonably thinking beings in the entire movie.
Think about it, Giselle. You never see Mr. Weenie and the werewolf together.
You never see the werewolf and anyone together. In that case, any one of us could be the werewolf.
With the humans, there's Gordy, the sheriff of the town of Timberline that cares about the forest and his community, and the villain making his surprising comeback, Shaw, who convinced Gordy to reopen open season to hunt the wailing Wampus werewolf and Boog and Elliot along the way. Mainly, he's just the typical revenge-seeking villain accompanied by the only new additions to the movie, Ed and Edna, who are just two stupid henchmen whose unique trait is that they're also Canadian. And as a Canadian myself, these two characters personally offend me. The main purpose of a sequel is to see some familiar characters come back on another adventure. Yet for this one, that feels more like a drawback than a benefit. I can honestly say that this is the best sequel in the open season franchise. But then again, that doesn't mean that this is a good film. As it is a direct-to-video sequel to a not-so-good animated film, of course open season Scared Silly is bad. The story is unengagingly predictable, the comedy is mostly flat and dull, the animation offers very little that's new and original, and the characters are just reminders to why this franchise is more of a headache than actually fun. Just like the other films, this sucks, and yeah, I'm giving this the Animat seal of garbage. It's just not a good time with this movie. However, despite my criticisms and feeling like it's more flawed than entertaining, I must give this movie credit that it does have one thing that puts this above the previous sequels. It actually does try. Unlike 2 and 3 that felt like soulless, corporately manufactured products with no sense of motivation from the team behind them, there is a bit of a genuine feeling that they wanted to make a true and honorable sequel to Open Season. Compared to the predecessors, there's a stronger connection to the first, the animation received a significant improvement, and there were a few instances that were actually enjoyable. Personally, I wouldn't recommend to watch any of them, but if you are in a position that you must watch more than one open season, including the first, then just skip the second and third and go with Scared Silly. Is it a good film? Not at all. But to give credit where credit is due, at least they tried. Hey guys, this is Animat. I want to go and start things off by giving out a huge thanks to Ryan Walterson, whose amazing support on Patreon allowed him to get some amazing rewards, including this one, where he got to go and ask me to review Open Season Scared Silly. In fact, I believe he actually is the one who requested me to review every single Open Season movie. So I guess it would make sense to go and conclude all this by finishing off the whole set of reviews and actually do Scared Silly. And now that I have done the review, I can finally say that it's done. It's over. I can leave Sony Animation alone on this one, and I am finally free. I no longer have to check out any more of Boog and Elliot's stupid adventures. I'm finally done. Unless Sony Animation out of the blue announces an Open Season 5 for some reason, but other than that, I can say for now, I'm finished and I'm free. But you know what's actually funny about Scared Silly is that I have seen some comments from people where they actually did state that they felt like this is the worst of the open season movies, that among all of them, 1, 2, and 3, this one they deem to be the worst film from open season. And I guess after watching my review, I think it is safe to say that I might be in the camp that might disagree on that statement. Like I said, I find this to be the best sequel of open season. Maybe like the original is a bit better than Scared Silly, but I would take Scared Silly much more than I would with the second and third film, hands down. And the reason for that, like I said in my review, it really stems from the fact that I felt like there really is more of a motivation to actually go and make a good movie. With the second and third film, it's pretty obvious that it's just Sony Animation demanding to turn open season into a franchise when no one else really asked for that. And the people at Real Effects, they just tried to go and, well, they were just doing their jobs and just make the movie, and that's it. Just produce it as quickly as possible so they can move on to something they actually want to go and create. But in this case here, in the case of Scared Silly, there actually is a little bit of that feeling that there is some effort where they want to do a legitimate sequel to Open Season. And a major part of that really does stem from the fact that it is directed by David Feiss. Or at least, I think that's what it is. Like, that's the feeling that I am getting. Mainly because with David Feiss, he actually did had experience working with the Open Season franchise, where he was the head of story of the first film. And I guess, like, now that he came back to the franchise and wanted to try to do a new take with a new crew, like, it's not at Real Effects, it's at Rainmaker, I get the sense that he wants to go and try his version of what would be an Open Season 2. Something that would be more connected to the first film, where it's mostly connected, where Boog really does remember his time at Timberline, where he was more like a pet domestic bear in a way. And then you got some recurring characters, like characters that were not in 2 and 3 that managed to come back. Characters like Gordy and even Shaw. That was probably the biggest surprise I ever had with Scared Silly, is to see Shaw come back. So from there, that's why I do have a little bit more respect for this one than I do with the other movies, especially with 2 and 3, is that I could tell there is a sense that there is some effort to actually craft a good story. That there is a sense that they do, like, there are people working on the franchise that actually do care about characters like Boog and Elliot. And I guess when it comes to the review itself, that also explains why this review is a little bit more positive, even though this is technically a bad film, that I gave it the Animat seal of garbage and stuff like that. But this really does stem from, I think the big thing to really emphasize for this review is that this is coming from the perspective of someone who did go through every single Open Season movie from 1, 2, 3, and then suddenly with Scared Silly, because I now have something to go and compare to, where I look back at some of the other things that have been done in the previous films, and now looking at this, then I got a perspective of like, okay, what is it that they went and improved upon the last time, or what is it that's still a massive issue with the movie? So, like, I got something to compare to. Like, I am familiar with the Open Season franchise. Like, I can pretty much guarantee you, I probably wouldn't have been as nice as I was in this review if it were that I would just start things off with Scared Silly in itself. Like, as if I haven't seen the first Open Season, or I haven't seen the second or third film, and just go with Scared Silly. Yeah, I would just treat it like any other bad film I have reviewed in the past. But because I've had that perspective, because I have that experience with the other Open Season films, that's why I felt like I was a little bit more positive, because after going through stuff like the second and third, it is actually nice to see some improvement that the franchise is trying to do. and that there is some form of effort to actually make a good movie, and not just something that the filmmakers were trying to get this over with so that they can move on to a project that they actually want to do, and just to do it for the sake of pleasing the big companies, or in this case, Sony Animation. So, at least in a way, yes, the movie sucks, but there is a little bit of respect that I can give to Scared Silly. Okay, so with that said though, now that I am officially done with Scared Silly and the whole open season franchise, it is now time that I can go and move on to the animation hat. And by the way, if you guys would like to be like Ryan and you want to go and support my work and get some amazing rewards at the same time, including but not limited to seeing my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animact. But at the same time, if you guys would like to go and suggest an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. Alright, so let's see, what can I do to escape the open season franchise? What can I do? Alright, there we go. Did I drop something? I don't know, I felt like... Yep, okay, I did. I don't know, I felt something on my foot and I saw like in the corner of my eye something like just popped out. But anyways, I did get one in my hand, so the next review shall be... What? Oh, okay. Oh, this is interesting. This is interesting, actually. I mean, I'm not gonna say that, like, I was a major fan of the show. Like, I wouldn't necessarily consider it, like, one of my major favorites, but that doesn't mean I haven't seen any of the episodes. I remember in the past, when I was a kid, like, I have seen a few of them, so I am at least a bit familiar with this one. And, I was also familiar that it had a movie as well, but, right now, I've never seen it before, but I guess, now with this review, or the upcoming review that will come up, I guess, I'll have a chance to see the first big adventure of everyone's favorite football head.
Move it, football head!
Hey, Arnold!
Just one more time.
No.